Here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
Ever wonder where the devil got his horns?
How about those cloven hooves?
Or that pitchfork?
Wasn't he an angel?
No, he was a snake.
No, he's the great red dragon.
No, he's the beast.
He's the prince of this world.
Prince of darkness.
Well, he's the prince of dark.
Good morning, star lovelies. One of my names is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I sometimes go by Keenan Diaz.
And we're the hosts of the brand new podcast, The Devil's Details. What comes to mind when I say Lucifer?
How about Satan?
What about just the devil? How did the big bad of the Western world end up with so many faces? Join us as we dig up, decipher, and deconstruct the devil's many forms throughout history.
Take a guided tour with Dante through the 9 circles of hell.
Or revisit Satan's angsty bad boy years in Paradise Lost.
Learn the ins and outs of a Faustian contract.
Easier than a 1099, but with a hell of a lot more fine print.
Slither on over to The Devil's Details on True Story FM and join us in the diabolic discussion.
Love and hisses. Mwah! Didn't Al Pacino play him in a movie?
Are you sure that wasn't Robert De
I could
Niro?
have sworn it was Tim Curry.
That was Elizabeth
Didn't
Hurley.
he go down to Georgia at some point?
Hooked on you, baby, you're golden. Time moves, I never noticed. Just can't get enough. Got me wonderstruck.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Make Me a Nerd. I'm Mandy Kaplan, and it is my mission to explore the world of nerdery and geekery that I have been avoiding my whole life. And it's been quite an adventure so far. This is my first time playing a video game. All other episodes and all my life has just been watching things or watching other people play video games. But today, my incredible friend and guest assigned me an actual video game, and he thought I had the ability to figure it out, which is even more impressive. He is an actor, a singer, a writer, generally one of the most handsome, lovely, talented, kind people I know. He can tell you more about himself. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Jonny Lee Jr.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for such a wonderful intro, Mandy.
That's it. We're done. It's a chance to, in case I ever need to call in a favor, I can say, remember when we did that intro?
Yeah, I'll definitely remember it. I'll keep it close to my heart.
I didn't even mention Mythcast, but that's how you and I know each other.
Yeah.
Tell the people more. How'd you meet me? What's your favorite thing about me?
So I think I met you at a mostly musicals one night.
Okay.
And then you were like, I want you to be in Miscast. And I said yes. And it's been wonderful ever since.
I clubbed you over the head and dragged you off and...
Yep.
Yep. So, yes, you have done many miscasts, my musical cabaret, and you most famously, I think in your first one, you went green and you were Elphaba.
I did. That was a crazy one because it was my first one. Me and Justin decided to do a whole costume change in the middle of the show, putting on that green makeup in between the opening number and up to whenever we were performing. That was crazy. Getting full coverage, that's hard.
And Justin, not just a talented singer and duet partner, but your real life live-in boyfriend, because you're not married.
No, but we will be together for about 20 years in August.
Oh, that's so sweet. You guys are absolutely the sweetest.
Oh, thanks.
But I'm married, so I win. Anyway, okay, so what is your general relationship with the nerd world? I asked you to be one of my first guests because I've seen your posts.
You've seen my nerdistry.
Yes, every superhero thing, every video game, you're always counting down to release and first one in. So talk about what kind of stuff you like. And
yeah, so I always like to say that I'm a very well-rounded nerd because I like basically everything that encompasses nerdom. I love musical theater. I love video games. I love anime. I love sci-fi. I love fantasy. I love it all. So basically anything that has to do with nerdy, geeky stuff, I probably have a hand in, or I have seen, I have experienced.
Now, I resent you including musical theater because I think musical theater is so cool.
Is it though? I mean, I feel like Glee probably made it more mainstream more than anything, especially with this current generation that's in college.
Yeah.
But it is not exactly cool.
No, that I understand. And I am a passionate lover of musical theater.
Yeah.
So therefore, I've just been telling myself my whole life, it's really cool. It's what the popular kids are into.
Well, we
I
all
know.
know that musical theater kids really are the cool, popular kids.
That's all I'm
And
saying.
yeah.
Yeah. So are you like a LARPer? Is that a personal question?
No, actually, I am not a LARPer, only because I haven't ever really experienced any of that improvisational live stuff like Dungeons and Dragons is actually
Mhm.
something I've never played. That's like one thing about geekdom and nerdistry that I've never experienced. But I have so many friends that are always like, oh, you would love it. You would love playing with us and all that stuff. But, it's being in LA, it's hard to find a group of people to actually just get together and do this weekly.
Well, it's hard to get anybody in LA to do anything, literally.
Yeah, seriously. But I have cosplayed before, so
Wait,
that
so what's the difference? That's LARPing, no?
not really, because cosplaying is basically just dressing up like it's Halloween and you go
Oh,
to a convention, you dress up like a character. You don't actually pretend to be the character. LARPing is actually real life role playing, so live
yes.
action role playing, and
Right.
you have to embody the character. It's stuff that people do when they're kids, right? When I was little and I was like maybe 8 or 9, me and my friends would play X-Men in the schoolyard, and that's
Mhm.
basically LARPing.
My friend and I would play Dukes of Hazzard, and
That's
I had to be Bo Duke or I would cry.
Oh my goodness, that's so strange.
What? What? You're telling me? It's freaking adorable, Johnny.
I mean, it was before my time. I'm sorry.
Ouch. Well, I actually am quite familiar with LARPing from the film Role Models with Paul Rudd.
Yes,
Is
I
one of my
remember.
favorites. Yeah. And that was really the only time I've seen it, fully played out. And it looks like a ton of fun, but you have to really commit. I mean, how do you
Yeah,
have a job and do that?
I mean, I don't think you can.
Yes. So when we were discussing options for you to assign me, I realized as I'm doing this podcast, it's not a big reveal what you assigned me because everybody can see right on their phones, like, oh, this is the episode where she played Zelda. So building up to what did you assign me isn't really a thing anymore. But why did you choose Zelda? What's your relationship with Zelda?
I find the Legend of Zelda series as a whole to be a very interesting video game because it basically encompasses a lot of different genres. It does role playing, does a bit of action, and does a lot of open world exploration, along with puzzle solving and dungeon solving. I thought it was a good intro for you in particular because recently, well, not really recently, but Breath of the Wild, the new game for Nintendo Switch, when it first came out, that was a very accessible game to a lot of people. And actually, a lot of people from this generation picked that game up and were introduced to The Legend of Zelda from that one. So I thought, yeah, maybe Mandy can try it. And, it's only 4 buttons. So
Yeah, but they each do something different, and I never pushed the right one.
Yes, that is a problem.
I don't know if I'm wired differently. When I try and tell my mom how to use a computer and she's like, I don't understand. I don't have an enter button on my keyboard. That type of thing. This is how it felt a bit to me. Now, full disclosure, I had a Sherpa. Jer was with me, my husband, the lovely and talented Jeremy Clavens, because I would never have been able to do it on my own. Even I Googled tutorials and stuff, but they were so long and detailed. And I just was looking for, in 5 minutes, here's how you play Zelda. And I didn't quite find that. So he sat down with me, and to be continued if our marriage survived. But that's how we started. So these controls, like this is a language I don't speak. When you first started on a Switch, is that what you play on, or a regular
Yes.
Nintendo? Were you just, is it instinctual for you, or were you like, oh, wait, what do I push? A, B, how do I jump? What?
Well, for me, it's actually a very quick learning curve because I basically trained my brain since, I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. So I pick up video game controls quite quickly. I do know that a lot of people that have never experienced video games and all these types of different like button mapping, all that stuff, it is quite hard.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of Legend of Zelda, all you really need to do is like pick things up, slash at things, throw things.
You say that, but I kept jumping when I was trying to slash.
Yes, it does. It does take some coordination. I kind of think about it like, piano playing, right? You have to kind of train both your left hand and your right hand when you're playing the piano. And it's the same thing with video games because you're still using both your right hand and your left hand. You're pressing different buttons. You're doing directional buttons on your left hand. You're doing action buttons with your right hand. It does get a little bit complicated. It does take some training, but once you get the hang of it, it's quite easy.
It's so funny. And also I'm realizing at your puzzled face when I said Dukes of Hazzard, you are quite a bit younger than me.
Well, not quite, but just a little bit.
Well, but the video games you grew up with were different. When I went to a friend's house, it was a joystick.
Yes, you had a Commodore 64, I remember, on a previous podcast, right?
Don't bring up my painful memories, Johnny. That's not fair. No, but we didn't have that type of video game. Ours were different.
Yeah, you had like Pong.
Yeah, yes, I did. I didn't have it because my parents didn't love me, as we've been over, but I played Pong. There was one called Intellivision, and it had like a swivel, almost like on your old iPod, and like you would swivel it to move your guy. I remember that, but there was no buttons and stuff. It wasn't like that.
Yeah, with any of those first generation systems, it was very simple. Like with Pong and Pac-Man, you just need a joystick and basically, if anything, one button. With the spin wheel thing, that's really interesting because I don't think I've ever played that before. But I would think it's kind of, it'd be probably pretty fun to try out.
You'd have to go to a museum or an antiques place. I'm not sure where they have this.
Garage sale, wherever.
Okay. What do you like about Zelda specifically? You drop into this game, you are a character named Link. I chose to leave him shirtless because I found that highly enjoyable. You put on some clothes and then you start running.
Yes. So actually, keeping him shirtless is a detriment to your playthrough because it makes you weaker. By adding clothes, you gain armor. So you can survive being hit more.
Okay. Good to know for the next time I don't play.
Yeah.
There's something about this that you said puzzle solving. I certainly did not get to any puzzles, and I'm a puzzle junkie. I really like escape rooms and stuff like that and the challenge of solving puzzles. But for me, it was simply run over, pick up the glowy thing. Somebody's attacking you, hit them with the glowy thing. And a lot of reading.
A lot of reading.
At one point, I was like, I would just read a book if this interested me. But it feels like not a lot is happening. It's not a propulsive game. Is that because I was not far enough into it? Or is that just you have to be a person who likes that exploring pace?
Sort of. So obviously there are many different types of video games, and The Legend of Zelda is, I think, technically under the role-playing game genre. So role-playing games are usually pretty dense in text and plot and story. But the reason why I decided on Zelda for you is because the plot does take a backseat to the adventuring. So the thing I love most about all Zelda games is the lore and the fun of seeing things in the background and trying to figure things out yourself while you explore the world. In particular, Breath of the Wild, it took a different aesthetic than previous Zelda games. They actually used a lot of Japanese cultural references in what they did. And it was quite interesting for me as a Zelda player for most of my life. It was a completely different look and very, very cool.
The feel of it is very similar, and I'm not making a joke here. I don't know why you would have ever been to Great Wolf Lodge, but have you ever been to Great Wolf Lodge?
I've seen the commercials.
Okay. What they don't put on the commercials, because it's an indoor water park for kids and, pedophiles. Anyway, no, I'm kidding. So the hotel has a game, like an epic game on the first 6 floors of the hotel where they get you coming and going. You buy a wand, and then the wand, you can wave at certain objects that come to life and it screens, and it sends you on this adventure for hours. I love it. It's called the Magi Quest at Great Wolf Lodge, and it's very similar to Zelda. You run up to a screen, and now you've gathered all your runes. That's where I learned the word rune. And then a character says, "Oh, but now the prince has been kidnapped, and you have to go back to this and get another power or whatever." I love it. I loved doing it with my kid Casey when he was growing up. I think I loved it because it was so physical. It was like, now go back downstairs. Now run over there. Wait, where's the thing? And it's me doing it. It's me looking for an object, not a character on a screen, which feels removed.
I would say that's a very good comparison because, it's just the idea of Zelda is to discover things, to adventure and find different plots of different points of the story that you want to, basically realize and uncover.
Mm-hmm.
So in particular in Breath of the Wild, the mystery is, why did Link wake up after all these years? Why is Zelda in the castle? And why do you have to adventure throughout all of Hyrule, like trying to defeat Calamity Ganon?
The history of the royal family of Hyrule is also the history of the Calamity Ganon, a primal evil that has endured over the ages.
Who?
Calamity Ganon is the main antagonist in Breath of the Wild.
That was my stripper name in my 20s. I did not get to Calamity Ganon. I was longing for other characters. It was very lonely, except that damn old man who kept startling me.
Yeah, so Zelda tends to be quite a lonely game if you really think about it, because the world tends to be very sparse in terms of population.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because of technical specs and all that, but from the get-go, from like literally the first Zelda game on the Nintendo Entertainment System, it's really just you, Link, fighting against monsters trying to save Princess Zelda. And you have a lot of antagonists and villages with people, but outside of those villages, it's pretty empty.
When you're saying to save Zelda, I didn't get a sense of that. Was that in the voiceover when I woke up as Link?
Probably. I think there's a prologue that talks about what happened maybe 10,000 years ago before the game starts.
Okay.
And explains the story. Basically, every single Legend of Zelda story follows a timeline. So every game is basically kind of like a reincarnation of Link and Zelda doing their own story.
Mm-hmm.
And this one in particular is actually at the very end of the timeline. So this is the last game so far in the timeline of things.
That look on your face tells me that you have no recollection of me, however.
I think you are now ready to hear what happened 100 years ago.
Everything I've done up until now, it was all for nothing.
Do you like playing alone? I always thought of video games as like you're with your buddy on the couch and you can,
Yeah, so being that it's a role-playing game, I do tend to like these single role-playing games because I can play them at my own pace and I can advance or stay still as much as I want. Nowadays, there's a modern type of role-playing game called a MMORPG, which is massive multiplayer online role-playing game.
Woo. Those
are interactive with friends. So something like Fortnite or World of Warcraft, those are MMORPGs. Valkyrie, yes. These are huge games with huge player bases, and you do play with friends. Mm-hmm. But you have to keep up with your friends. You have to make sure that you're working with your friends. With these solo games on platforming systems, you can play by yourself at your own time, at your own leisure, and not worry about affecting someone else's playthrough. And in terms of role-playing games, in my personal opinion, single-player games like these tend to elevate the story more often, so you don't have to rely on too many narratives.
Are you an introvert? Like, are you a loner?
Oh, most definitely. I am a huge introvert. I do turn on my extrovert button when I'm with people, but I love being by myself and watching any sort of TV show or playing a video game.
I'm wondering if this is really a good match for an introvert. I'm an extrovert 10,000%, as you can tell about me. I need people and connection and noise and laughter to feel alive. And even when Jer plays Zelda, it's very quiet. He's not in there going like, oh, it's just, he's just engaged in this world, and he could sit in there for 2 hours lost in this world. To me, there's a melancholy about it.
In a way, but I do think about it differently. So with these type of games, I always it kind of feeds into my want to be an archaeologist in a way. I love discovering really weird things. So what's great about The Legend of Zelda is that it has such a huge history that they created, like thousands and thousands of years.
Mhm.
And when you've played all the games, you can see tiny Easter eggs in current games that call back to past games. And then
Mhm.
you can discover an underground castle that was maybe in a previous game that wasn't that looks completely different now because it's in ruins and such. So it kind of just makes me feel like I'm discovering things. I'm finding out different things about the world, about the people in it, what they've
Mhm.
invented in the past, and how it got lost.
Mhm.
Like, I was actually a huge fan of Ancient Aliens, even though that was complete bullshit.
Oh,
It was
Jer
still
loved it.
but super fun, right? And
Yeah,
it's
well
definitely an introvert type thing to just sit
Mhm.
there and think about all these possibilities and all these histories that have happened.
I just apply it to other things. There are TV shows that I'm really passionate about and obsessed with, and Friends is one of them. And I can watch an episode in season 8 and say, "Oh, that's different than what they set up in the first season," right? And I like to find those things, or the Easter eggs that, oh, they really did set that up 8 years ago and now it's coming back as a callback. So I understand that lore. It's just that's very accessible for my brain. And I'm wondering if I had started younger, if Zelda would have been like, yes, this is familiar from when I was a kid. But it wasn't pulling me in. It wasn't making me think, oh, but what's behind that wall?
I think you probably just need to play the game a little bit more, because once the world opens up and you can literally go anywhere, it does get quite exciting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It gets quite exciting because there are these. So you were talking about how you loved puzzles, right?
Mhm.
And escape rooms. So in Breath of the Wild, there are basically temples scattered out throughout the kingdom that you enter and solve puzzles in. And every single time you solve a puzzle, you obtain this item. I can't remember what exactly it is. It's been several years since I played it, but you get this item which helps you level up or continue the story itself.
Mhm.
And a really cool, nerdy thing about these temple designs, which you probably didn't see, is that there's this kind of mummified monk in these temples. Every single temple has a different mummified monk, and
Okay.
it's actually based on a real thing, a real type of instance that happened in Japan called Soku Shinbutsu, which is a Buddhist monk who self-mummifies himself.
Oh,
So you see these mummies in all these temples, and the game doesn't tell you who they are. They just tell you they're sheik, this race of people.
I
And
did.
then
I did see that word, I think.
okay, yeah, so that's just a race, a culture that long existed in Hyrule. And as you play the game, you discover more history about them, and you
Mhm.
kind of get into these temples and you think, why is there this mummified priest or whatever here? Like, what's going on? So that's what gets me excited, like the mystery of it and trying to discover what that is.
Absolutely. Are you a history buff in general? It sounds like you are, like History
Oh,
Channel or
most definitely.
yeah.
That's why I said it feeds my archaeologist brain.
Yes. Are these worlds designed for the mainstream, or are they designed for gaming, lore loving sci-fi adventure people?
Basically, the idea of the game was to grab a bigger audience, because like the name Link, right, the character Link, they named the character Link as a link between the player and the game itself. They
Oh,
wanted the player to basically feel like they were in the game. So
uh-huh.
Legend of Zelda, when it first came out, was the first exploration type game from a top down view. So basically, you would watch a Link from his head, the top of his head, walking around the world, and that
Yes.
was the way they could figure out how to basically have this pixelated character walk around a world, unlike Super Mario, which is very linear, which goes from left to
Yes.
right.
I was often above Link with Jer going, turn the camera, go behind him, turn the camera. And I was like, if he says turn the camera one more time, divorce, that's it. So I couldn't do both. I couldn't get my left hand, like you were saying, like play the piano. I couldn't get my left hand to do the camera correctly. But so I was often floating above, like from a drone view, which
Yeah.
was really upsetting to Jer.
Now that I think about it, it probably would have been easier for you to try one of the earlier games where it was only 2 buttons to
Ooh,
control.
I like that.
So like basically the original Legend of Zelda is great game. But the best old game is Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, which was on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
Gotcha.
And it was a huge game for my generation. I actually had a friend who told her husband, she was like, "You cannot marry me until you play this game."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
It's and that game was actually my introduction to the series, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this new one is the same story, or Call of the Wild or Breath of the Wild is a new story?
It's a new story using the same archetypes in terms of
Okay.
Link and Zelda, but completely different Link and Zelda. Like they're reincarnations from thousands of years down the line.
Do you meet her?
Zelda, yes. Zelda is actually quite important in Breath of the Wild. In Breath of the Wild, this version of Zelda is probably the most powerful and most intertwined into the storyline out of all the Zelda games.
Oh, well, good for her. What's she look like? I didn't
Like
get
you!
I didn't
She's
get anywhere
blonde.
close to her, I don't think.
No, she looks like you. She's blonde, beautiful, a princess.
Oh,
Exactly
bless
what
her
you are.
heart. She looks like Reese Witherspoon. Fantastic.
Yes.
Is Zelda your favorite video game, or what would be your favorite of all time?
My favorite of all time is actually Final Fantasy, the series,
Oh,
because I just love a dense story. I've always loved that. I've always loved getting lost within a story. I think the learning curve on Final Fantasy is way harder than Zelda.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think I did a voiceover for one many, many years ago.
Oh, probably. There's so many characters.
Yeah. I mean, I know I did. It's on my resume, but I don't remember what it was. But
Mhm.
that's something about this world. I audition for these games a lot, and I've done a few of them. And when I get these backstories, I need an interpreter. They'll say, "Oh, XPAA3 is half cyborg, half human, came from this planet, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh God, just what does she say? And is she angry when she says it, or is she scared? Just tell me how to say this," because they're so dense.
I feel like a lot of voice actors experience that actually. Like they'll get cast into a game, like especially a franchise that's been around for a really long time, and they'll start saying words and they're like, "I don't know what this means, but okay."
It's like singing in another language,
Exactly.
right? We've all done that, or we've all done that. Probably not everyone, but you and I have.
I also like thinking about it kind of like, in medical procedurals or law procedurals, they always talk about random things that are so
Right.
esoteric to that, industry. And you're like, I don't know what's going on. And as an actor, you're also like, I don't know what I'm saying, but here it is.
Right. You just have to memorize it and give it some meaning. Have there been movies and TV shows made of Zelda?
Yes. So in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a cartoon of The Legend of Zelda that played with the Super Mario Brothers cartoon in the early afternoon. Zelda actually came on way too early for me. I couldn't watch it because my school at 3 and it was on at like 2:30 or something like that. But I remember, yeah. But I remember the cartoon was actually quite different from the game itself. The character of Link was kind of a buffoon and was a bit silly. And I think it was based on the second Zelda game, which is Link's Awakening.
In modern day, one of my favorite things to do is cast. Who would be our Link if we were making a TV or a TV series or a movie of Link of Zelda?
That's a really
Obviously,
hard...
I just got cast as Zelda. That
Yes,
just happened.
obviously. I don't know. That's a hard question because, the thing about Link is that he is a character that does not speak.
Doesn't speak ever.
At all, because the point of Link is, again, to connect you to the world. He's the link for you to explore Hyrule.
Right.
So they purposely have always made him kind of voiceless, a bit like Super Mario. Super Mario never really talks, except for this new movie with Chris Pratt.
Right.
So, Nintendo always wants these characters to be kind of these blank slates that you can feel like you're a part of, that you can become. So in terms of casting an actor for Link, I would say, honestly, anybody would do. It just really depends on how they write the character, right?
God, that's so strange. This person that you're following and that you've put yourself into, you don't even really know their character traits.
Yeah, it depends on the game itself, which specific Zelda game you're playing. So, for instance, in Link to the Past, you know that the Link you're playing is a nephew to an uncle who dies in the beginning of the game, and you go out exploring, and you're quite young. In the game Wind Waker, The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, that came out for the GameCube, you're a young boy from a world that's completely flooded with water, and you want to go sailing. And that's all you really know. And what you learn about the character is just from how other people perceive him and what you do within the game itself. So what's fun is that you can pretend, you could be like, my Link is a giant asshole, and you can just go around kicking chickens.
There's a whole fetish I hadn't even thought of, Johnny. Why would you take chickens? Actually,
in the game Ocarina of Time for the N64, there was a village, I think it was Kakariko Village, where you could pick up chickens and throw them or slash at them. And if you pissed off a chicken enough, it would attack you until you died.
Oh boy.
So it's just like little tiny things like this in these games are just so fun to discover.
Justin, does he play video games or not really?
No. He's like you. I basically sit him down, like, try this game. He's like, I have no idea what to press.
Oh, he's going to love that impression. Yeah, it was, Jer, God love him. He's very patient with me. But many times he was like, just give me the controller. And I was very bratty. And I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be trying to figure this out. I died so many times. And he was just, it didn't bother me because I wasn't that invested. I think Pac-Man, I can see how many pellets I've eaten and how many are left. And it feels like an achievable goal. But this endless world of Zelda, although I know that Jer finished this one and I think he's finished the second one too. But it just feels endless.
It can feel quite overwhelming, I would say, because I do get that sense sometimes when I start an open world game like this. This is what Zelda is. It's an open world game where you can just go anywhere and discover anything you want.
Right.
So one of the most popular games in recent memory is Elden Ring. Right. So Elden Ring is by a company called From Software, and they are known for creating incredibly hard games. So I had never played one before. And when I downloaded Elden Ring and started playing it, I was so scared to do anything because everyone was like, it's so hard. And I basically exited the beginning area and died almost immediately.
You did the Mandy approach.
I did the Mandy approach. Yes. And it took me literally, I think, like 2 days for me to literally just be like, okay, just shut up and just go. Just go. Who cares if you die? It doesn't matter. At the very get-go, you're just trying to learn what to do. And once you get the hang of it, you'll be great. And once I got that mindset, it was fine.
But it's supposed to be fun. And you sound like you're like, just take your medicine. Just take the castor oil. Or
it's a challenge, right? It was a challenge for me because I tend to play games for the story, or if it's a platformer like Super Mario, just for the fun of it. In a game like Zelda or Elden Ring, there's so much that goes into it. There's so many different aspects of the game that you can play with and really delve into. And, just trying to wrap my head around it from the get-go does take some time. You do need to live with the game for a little bit.
Of course. I'm learning more and more about myself that I think even though I'm a very creative person, I am more analytical and much more of a rules, boundaries person. I like rules and boundaries. Pac-Man makes a lot of sense to me, and I like playing Pac-Man.
Yeah. Actually, in a way, I would say Final Fantasy would be an easier game for you because they're very linear. Even though it feels like the game isn't open, it does guide you down a path. Basically, a lot of people complain about the games because they're like, oh, it's like running through a hallway the entire game. But I kind of like that because it streamlines the storyline and it helps you understand what's going on and it helps you understand these characters. So it's kind of like
it's just running in the field. It's just running.
And that's the downside to these open world games where you have these characters that you don't really know and you're just trying to discover the world. And it takes some time to find an attachment to it, unlike a movie per se,
Well, here's what I would say to you, my friend. If we do this again and we want to try Final Fantasy, let's sit together.
Yeah, I would love that.
Because it'll save my marriage, or maybe yours. And I think, your understanding and your passion might help spark more of a spark for me. That was 2 sparks in a row, but it might help ignite something in me.
I think so, because, for me with video games, I like to share these games with people mainly because of the story and the experience, right? The reason why I didn't recommend something like Super Mario or Celeste or anything that was a platformer, which is basically go from left to right and try to avoid obstacles. It's very simple, but I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
So I love it when people experience these stories with me. So for instance, if we do another one and you're playing Final Fantasy, I kind of want you to play Final Fantasy 16, the most recent one, because it's super Game of Thronesy. So it's very accessible story-wise. So you watched it, right? You watched Game of Thrones?
Not at all.
Oh my goodness.
But last week's episode was about it. So I watched it for this podcast.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I'm truly anything you mention about the sci-fi nerd world, I'll say nope. Haven't seen it.
Oh my God,
but
Mandy.
I'm getting there.
We have so much to introduce to you.
Yes.
So much. Thank goodness for this podcast.
Right? So Jonny, I don't know how I'm I'm not all that technical, but I do have something I want to try and play if possible. Jer had the idea when I was attempting to play Zelda. He said we should be recording this. And then he cut a little low light reel of my moments as I played, and it's 2 minutes long. I'm going to try and play it. Pete, will you please play it for the people, and hopefully Jonny can hear it. Let's see if it's
so excited.
Here we go.
Is that sweat jumping off my body?
Yeah, it is off your head. Yeah.
Ew. Why am I climbing?
I don't know. Okay, you died. Hit minus again. That's going to bring up your map. Go to that little blue icon and hit A to travel. That's going to bring you back to where you started.
Oh, so it's cheating. Oh, wait. I'm back at the very, very beginning?
Okay, so instead of falling down the cliff this time, go to the right.
But how do you know this?
You would go to the cliff's edge and be like, hey, probably don't want to fall down there. Swivel the camera this way so it's...
Swivel? Oh, God, that makes me nauseous.
You'll get used to it. And then, because we're going to play this for hours.
Mushroom. Pocket that shit. Oh, it's a person. Why isn't he talking?
Turn your camera so it's facing where you want to go. There you go. Nope. A coke.
Oh, I hear it. I hear it.
I'm going to get you. You're going to have to beat the crap out of that guy.
Wait. Ah! What do I do?
You got to weaponize.
What? How do I weaponize?
Yeah.
Ah!
Do it again. This guy.
Hey! My tree branch is too damaged.
Yeah, but you have another one. Get him.
Ouch! He's a mean monster. This is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Did I die?
No, you still have half a heart. Oh,
is someone attacking?
Yeah. Turn the camera so you can see them.
I think I'm running right towards them. Yep.
Don't just stand there. They're going to hit you. Hit them with the club.
Ow!
So that sound is like, you figure something out.
I haven't heard it before. I'm exhausted. We've been playing for an hour.
Yeah. Now you know why Casey and I can play for 3 hours.
No, I don't.
Oh my goodness, I have so much empathy for Jer.
Right? Did you hear the loathing in his voice when he's like, turn the camera? Did you hear it? It was the 25th time he had said it in a half hour.
I loved how he was like, yeah, just like approach the cliff and you don't want to fall off the cliff, right?
I fell off that cliff 4 times in a row.
Oh, that's so funny.
I was laughing so hard, and he was laughing, he was having fun, but he's never questioned my intelligence or my ability more than in this.
Hey, you know what? He was actually quite patient. Like whenever I try to introduce these games to Justin and he just doesn't get it within the first 5 minutes, I'm just like, I gotta stop. I don't want to do this anymore.
So let's get the 4 of us together and Justin and I can do something else.
Sure, why not?
Make Me a Nerd is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Pete Wright. Thank you, Pete. You have your work cut out for you today. The theme song is Wonderstruck by Jane and the Boy. Please hit me up on my Instagram at Mandy_Kaplan_Clavens. Those are both Ks. And if you have 2 minutes, please, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please hit 5 stars and leave me a written review. Under the stars, you click write a review. I want to hear from you all, and it helps me get seen and grow this podcast. And the best way you can support and help me do this is by going to makemeanerd.com, hit that join button, and $5 a month is going to get you bonus content and more access to me and a private Discord channel and all sorts of fun stuff to join me on this journey and to help support Make Me a Nerd. Thank you for listening. Jonny Lee Jr., you have so many projects and so much going on. How can everybody follow you if they want to?
I think the best way to follow me is my Instagram, which is JONNYLEEJR, Jonny Lee Jr. No H after the O, people. It's short for Jonathan. There's no H after that O.
I've never seen so much rage come from this name.
I also have a website, but I haven't updated it in 3 years, so...
So if you want to see what Jonny looked like 3 years ago. And aren't you performing?
I am. I'm going to be in Soft Power at the Signature Theater this coming summer. It's a new musical by Janine Tesori and David Henry Hwang. Super exciting. This is their second go at it. They're changing a lot of things about the show, and I can't wait to do it. So
exciting. Well, thank you for coming on and trying to make me a nerd. The social aspect would be better next time if we are together.
Yes,
that'll
most
help
definitely.
Me.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to play more video games with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonny Lee Jr. Love you.
Thank you. Love you too.